Brilliant. All right, so welcome everybody. We've got Lynn and Libby on the call who are going to help with admitting everybody, and they're on the board of trustees. And we've got a few others from various different qualifications today who will be able to support the conversation. But I'll just start by introducing myself. I'm Janet O'Neill. I'm an occupational health nurse. I've been in occupational health for about 25 plus years. I sort of gave up counting after then. I've done various different qualifications along the way. I'm a trustee and board member of iOH and have been since Neil recruited me. I think it's a good couple of years now, and thoroughly enjoy my time in iOH, and strongly recommend anybody who isn't a member to please become a member, because at £10 a year it's a steal. And just as an aside, one of the training providers came to us recently and said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe what an amazing resource the iOH is." And I thought, well, coming from a training educator, that's sort of high praise indeed. I also work as the deputy head of the National School of Occupational Health, and that's part of NHSC, WT&E, which used to be HEE, or Higher Education England. Head of PAM Academy in PAM Group, which is an occupational health provider, and that's our training part of the business. And I've popped in there Queen's Nurse only because I got told off by Emma Persant once for not putting it in there. So I've now put it in there. So let me just move on my slide. Oh, here's Linda. Okay, that's brilliant. The scope of the session today is really focused on registered nurses, OTs, physios, and technicians. But if there are any doctors that have joined, then obviously we can. Oh, there you go, Ruth. Hi, Ruth. We can obviously explore the opportunities that are out there for occupational health physicians as well. So more than happy to do that. One thing I thought I would start off with is just another popping into the chat. What sort of qualifications or training in occupational health are you aware of already? So if you wouldn't mind popping that in, just so that I can understand or gauge the level of everybody's knowledge. That's probably not going to stop me going through each one by one. As you will see, but at least I can have an understanding of what people are aware of already. So I do want today's session to enable a discussion on merits, gaps, and opportunities. So although we will keep obviously everybody on mute to start off with, once I've been through the slides, or even during the slides, if you feel that you have got a comment or a discussion piece, then I would really gladly welcome you to come in. If you wouldn't mind just raising your hand, so that okay, well, that's very interesting. So thank you very much for that. If you wouldn't mind just raising your hand, and then we can stop and then just have a chat, because I want to make it as interactive as possible, and hopefully we'll learn from everybody else as to what we need, if that's okay. Brilliant. So I know this is a lot of text, so excuse me for the lot of the text, but I was just formulating in my mind where everything sat. So apologies to the GP on the call. It hasn't included all of the GP routes, but we can, or OHP routes, but we can go into those in a little while. Just if I forget, please put your hand up. No problem if you're late. Okay, good. So people have some good understanding of what one of the qualifications is, that there is an occupational health. So what I've tried to do here is just put it into each level of what I've sort of felt is the level of difficulty. So this is a personal opinion on the level of difficulty. I've not obviously I've not undertaken some of these trainings. So the Foundation in Occupational Health modules, the NPAG, I haven't done those. I haven't done the ACPO modules either. And neither have I done the OH diploma, so the FOM diploma. So obviously these are just what I've read and what I've seen. So please if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. I'm more than happy to be challenged on these. But I'm going to start with what I sort of grouped together as level one, if you like. So the first I started with, which is where a lot of people start and a lot of people remain, is self-learning with courses and materials. And that self-learning might be the ELFH courses that there are. They might be their own reading that they come across. It might be what they find on, looking at Google about what occupational health is. It might be what they read on CIPD, or any of those other organizations. They might be coming to someone like iOH or SOM or FON to get an understanding of occupational health. They might be doing sort of standalone courses like Spiro or Audio, or any of those kind of courses. So that's self-learning. So I see that as sort of being at a basic level. Then I've put a basic technician course. So I put a basic technician course because there are technician courses out there that are 3 days or 4 days. And then people go on and do competency assessments from that. For those that aren't aware, the Society of Occupational Medicine have a online sort of workbook for technicians to complete for every practical skill that they have. And then there might be an in-house introduction to an occupational health program and on-the-job training. So that in-house introduction might be formal or it could be informal. So, for example, we know that PAM, who I work for, we have a in-house occupational health training course for those that are coming into occupational health. And mentoring program. I know that Health Partners also have a similar program with a theoretical followed by practical, and Optima are the same. They have theoretical followed by practical. I know that HEALS also have a training program. I know that BHSF also have a training program. So a number of occupational health providers are developing their own in-house introduction to OH program. These aren't accredited at the moment, but they are there. That doesn't only it isn't only occupational health providers, because there are NHS trusts that also have their own in-house programs. So one that particularly comes to mind is the Devon Trust. They have a particularly good and multidisciplinary in-house training program for those new into occupational health. But just talking about that sort of accreditation, that's something that the National School of Occupational Health are working on at the moment. We're just doing a scoping exercise to look at building a sort of validation, if you like, as opposed to an accreditation for those in-house training programs. So that is a work in progress, and we're at the beginning stages, but we're very quite excited about it, working together with SOM or COPA as they were. They're now incorporated into SOM. Any questions on this one before I move on to the next one? And obviously, just as an aside, all will require those task-based competency assessments when they're actually doing the on the job training. So no questions, no hands have gone up so far, which is really positive. So I'll move on to the next slide. Then this is where I've grouped level 2, if you like, the second level of training or education. So I've put the Open Awards level 3 technician, and we're very fortunate to have Debbie Williams on the call, who is running that Open Award level 3 technician. I should just put an aside there that actually EOPA or EOPH is also running a technician course with an online course, and they are looking to also become Ofqual accredited. I haven't put them in separately, but that is a more formal learning training program over a period of time that again is alongside competencies and the workbook for a skill workbook, if you like. It is 15 credits. It is accredited by Ofqual, so it's the first qualification that is actually credited for technicians. So very proud of that. That was a combination of work between various different occupational health providers, National School, and SOM. And Debbie here is the first provider of that. So I don't know if you wanted to just give us a few words around that, Debbie. Thank you for joining, by the way.
No problem. Yeah, so again, sorry about my voice. Yeah, it's yeah, we're very proud to be accredited to deliver this qualification, and I feel personally that there's such a need for it, for the standardized approach, because like Janet has already mentioned, there are some really good some of the larger occupational health providers maybe have their own internal training programs, but there are other training providers for occupational health technicians where there's so much variation in the standard of training and the content of training that is being delivered. So this is why SOM, Janet, and the other bodies have come together, and we've developed this standardized, Ofqual regulated qualification, and it's proven to be very popular and very successful. And I think, you know, the increasing role of OHTs, even just that just makes it even more important for them to be some kind of standardized training approach.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And I would like to say that actually that is that consistency and that standardized approach, which is really so important, even for the bigger providers. So hopefully it will grow legs. But that doesn't mean to say that if there are any nurses out there that are going to be doing the practical skills, the health surveillance, the safety critical medicals, that actually a qualification like this wouldn't be beneficial for them as well. It could be really beneficial in order to get that sort of consistency, standardization for doing the tasks that they need to do and understanding the wider picture. And I've just popped down here the roles and responsibilities for the occupational health technician, professional behaviours, risk management, safe, effective use of the screening equipment, understanding fitness for role, and understanding health risk management and health improvement. Those are the core, am I right, Debbie? Those are the core content. Obviously, that expands out. Each one has got a number of different areas within that, but those are the basic contents of the technician course. So you can see that's really all-encompassing, as they say. The only other thing to add there really is that excitingly we are exploring the opportunity of converting it into an apprenticeship. So I know I'm sort of preempting that, Debbie, so I hope you don't mind, but it is something that I've done some exploratory work, and it's fantastic that Debbie's taking that forward. So really excited about that one. Then there's the ACPO, which is part of CSP, the Chartered Society of Physiotherapists, the occupational health arm. They have a fantastic website if anybody wishes to have a look at it. And yes, the key focus is on physiotherapists, but actually a number of their courses are really useful for others, any others, nurses, doctors, OTs, etc. They've got fantastic courses. But this core introduction to occupational health e-learning modules 1 to 9 are really the sort of a foundation to occupational health. They do have I have looked at them, and they do have a physio slant. Of course they have a physio slant, but that doesn't mean to say that isn't useful for everybody, especially when we look at I was listening to a webinar from Kevin Fenton of Public Health this morning, and musculoskeletal disorders remains number one with the impact on health inequality. So it's really worthwhile just having that slant, even if we're not physios. So those are accredited by the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. So they are accredited, but they are e-learning modules. So you get certificates of attendance out there. It doesn't give you any competency at all. And then there's the NPAG Foundation, and now that's an NHS organization, and they run a foundation in occupational health. It's 7 modules, but as opposed to the Open Awards Level 3 Technician, which is all encompassing one qualification. All of these you can actually split out, and the second picture here is of the modules that they run, which you can see are great content, but you don't have to do the whole all 9. You can do one. You can do them separately. Now, that's the same with the NPAG Foundation. You can do them all separately, or you can do all 7 modules as a foundation course. And you can see, once again, some absolutely excellent content. And that is run by Lucy Kenyon. And Lucy Kenyon is also a board member of iOH, and extremely experienced and qualified, both as a trainer and clinician. And operationally, so is able to bring that sort of operational element to it. These are delivered face-to-face and remote, so they could be face-to-face and they could be remote. And now I know you're all thinking, well, goodness me, I want to find out more about this. Where am I going to find out more? Well, my last slide is all of the links for all of these. So when we send the slides out, you'll just be able to click on the link that you've got an interest in, and then and follow up on those. So quick, any questions around that? Yeah, excellent. I must be doing something right. I'm going to take it as I'm doing something right here. Nobody's got any questions so far. And then I've grouped this into level 3. Now, some people call the Diploma in Occupational Medicine or the Diploma in Occupational Health Practice as a foundation qualification in occupational health. But it is quite a robust foundation then, and that's why I've put it into level 3. It is 50 hours delivered minimum. Some of the courses that are delivered are more than that. And I would just like to say that if anybody is interested in doing this diploma, please don't think that it's only 50 hours, because the 50 hours is the taught hours. Of course, there's a significant number of hours that are required from a self-learning perspective. And I think we've got Jo Vallen-Smith on the call, and Jo has recently completed, and I'm sure she would agree with me totally, that it is a lot of extra work on top of that. And these, I've taken this from TOPS. There's various different providers, and the different providers can all be found on the Faculty of Occupational Medicine website. So with this, the providers are accredited to deliver, and then people sign up separately for the exam. So there's a payment required for the course itself, depending on which course that you're going to do. And then there is a payment that is required to the Faculty of Occupational Medicine for doing the exams. And there's the multiple choice questionnaire, and then a portfolio with a viva. You don't have to do them all at the same time. You can do your multiple choice, and then you can do your portfolio with a viva. You can imagine the portfolio is based on a workplace, and a workplace sort of needs assessment. So it is very focused on occupational health. And those are held twice a year, and you do have to apply some months beforehand. There's only a window when you can apply, and when you apply, you therefore have to commit to be able to undertake that exam at that time. If you fail, you can repeat. Now, there are a number of organizations that do preparation courses for the especially for the portfolio, but I think some support it's called the Academy, and they support those individuals that want to upskill themselves or get themselves ready. Cordell Health or EOPH, they also do it. So there's a number of different organizations. I think there's a new one beginning with a Z, I've forgotten their name, but they also do it. So there's a number of organizations that will help you prep for a fee. Just to let you know that it does cost, it's not free. But this, I've taken this from TOPS, from their website, and this is what the content is. I'll let you read it yourself. And this content is set by the Faculty of Occupational Medicine, and those providers have to demonstrate. Most of the delivered course is done remote. I don't know of anybody that does it face-to-face, but mostly that it's delivered over 2 separate weeks, so 2 sort of non-consecutive weeks, week 1 a break, and then week 2. Newcastle, who deliver a combined DIPOC Med and DIPOC Prac, so everybody and anybody's on the same course, which I think is fantastic for interdisciplinary learning, and really sort of elevates that course. That is actually 4 weeks. It's not 2 weeks, it's 4 weeks, and it's called Introduction to Occupational Health, getting you ready for the PharM diploma. And that's only run twice a year. And then TOPS run one for doctors and one for nurses, one for doctors, one for nurses, and that's 2 separate weeks. The Manchester diploma is only for doctors, and that is actually run over 6 months, and it's an e-learning program over 6 months, although they do have a 4-day on-site voluntary, which I understand has a lot of virtual sort of practice, and I understand it's really, really good. And then there's a new provider, Glasgow University have just set up, and those are for doctors as well. And I think they're also running it on a 6-month e-learning basis. So different ways of people being able to access this. I would not say that the exams in the portfolio are a walk in the park. You really do need to learn and study for that. They are they are not easy, and that's why, although it's called a foundation course, I would call it a foundation course with a kick, if you like. Any questions? Brilliant. Now, this one I've separated out. Liz isn't on the call, and I have shown it as University of Cumbria because it is the only university that does this, as far as I'm aware. But they do the advanced University Advanced Diploma, or UA-DIP they call it. Now, this is only 60 credits, so it can be done over 2 years, or it can be done over 1 year, and you can see the contents, that sort of legal and ethical aspects of occupational health is core, but then you can choose 2 other modules, any one of those. Obviously, it could be subject to change. Now, this is really popular with practicing clinicians, where they want to have some theoretical knowledge, but they don't want to go on and become a specialist or any management or leadership or anything like this. So it is a quite a popular course, but it sort of sits in between, if you like, between any of the other courses. But just bear in mind this page, because when we go to the next one, which is what I've called level 4, we can call it whatever we like, the graduate diploma OH practice development in Cumbria, and this is in no particular order, by the way, that then adds in a second part-time year leadership and change, negotiated learning, and then another module chosen from the slide that I did before. So it's those 6 modules. Also, once again, very popular. Now, none of these are SCIF and OH qualifications. These are core, pure occupational health, from what you can see on here. And we've got the BSc Occupational Health from Robert Gordon University, and you can see the content there. It's pure occupational health, and therefore it is not a SCIF qualification. It is a qualification in occupational health. I've just put a note here because last year in summer, the National School and the Faculty of Occupational Medicine published occupational health qualifications and titles, because what we realized is that there's a lot of occupational health nurses out there that have been practicing for a long time with alternative qualifications. Maybe they weren't able to afford to get their qualification converted to SCIF in that window that it was open for you to convert with a portfolio, or maybe they did that qualification outside of that window, and the NMC have never opened it again, and they've said quite categorically they will never open it again. And so therefore you had a lot of people with other qualifications that weren't SCIF, so we're sitting in a sort of no man's land, if you like. So these occupational health qualifications and titles set out what we feel would be as a specialist. You wouldn't be able to call yourself a specialist community public health nurse in OH, or part 3 of the register, but you can call yourself a specialist nurse. as long as you've got experience alongside the qualification. And I think that's really important, is to focus on that, because and I'm sure Neil will have be able to give us a bit more information about Skiffin, but Skiffin includes practice placements, whereas these qualifications don't. But what you find with these qualifications is most people are working in occupational health. So they've come in, they've maybe done an in-house foundation course. There's one nurse I know who did the foundation, the Faculty of Occupational Medicine diploma, and has now gone on to do a second qualification. So they've gone on, they're working in occupational health, but they now want to extend their knowledge out and make it more formal. The FOM diploma does not have any credits related to it at all. It's only accredited by I wouldn't say it's only accredited by the FOM. That doesn't sound right, because the FOM is a really a valid organization. So just bearing in mind that if you're looking at those qualifications, have a look at the occupational health qualification and title document as well, because I think that can be quite helpful if people are unsure about what they're doing. Now we are very fortunate in that we do have Linda Bruce from Robert Gordon on the call. So Linda, I didn't know if you wanted to come off mute and show yourself. Thank you very much for joining us, and just give us a little bit of an overview on the Robert Gordon BSc, which is 2 years part-time. You're on mute, Linda.
Thank you very much for asking me to say a few words. That's a brilliant overview you've just given, Janet. Very, very comprehensive. So what we offer at Robert Gordon's University is a 2-year completely online course. So there's never any requirement to attend the university physically. The degree follows a programme which was established many years ago now by Public Health England in terms of educational requirements for occupational health nurses. And it follows a logical sequence of events, from an introduction to occupational health, to health surveillance, to health promotion, to mental well-being, to absence management, and then into leadership, and finally management of occupational health services. It's 2 years. Each module lasts about 7 weeks. We anticipate that people need to be able to set aside about 10 hours a week for the course. And some people need a little bit more because of all the reading. Every single module is assessed at the end by a piece of work. Usually that's an essay which is 2,500 words. Health promotion is assessed by video presentation on a health promotional subject. Anybody that wants any more information, I'm more than happy to take emails, and I will respond to everybody individually. And what can I say? Our graduates are doing really well. Our graduates are in senior positions in occupational health, and anybody that's looking at higher education in occupational health might also want to look at the costs. For political reasons, the costs in Scotland are significantly reduced over the costs in England at the moment, which is also a great advantage. So, Jeremy, I think that's probably enough. I'm just very happy to answer any queries, but preferably if they come in by email, I will respond.
Okay, brilliant. Okay? That's perfect. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind putting your email in the chat, that would be lovely. And if anybody does want that link to that Public Health England Standards for Occupational Health Education, they were published in 2016 and were very robust. Actually, I think it was a group of iOH, Faculty of Occupational Medicine, and numerous other people that helped to put those together. The National School, it wasn't me, but others. So more than happy to put those together for anybody that's interested. So then I've gone on to level 5, and the reason I've grouped this into level 5 is because this is at an MSc standard, so that's sort of level 7, and we have got Neil on the. we have got Neil on the line who is will be able to explain a little bit more about that level 7. But the first qualification, you have to excuse me, I think I wasn't able to do this slide very well. I couldn't get the spacing. But there is a qualification that Manchester University are delivering as well, which is in public health OH. Let me just see what I've done here because I've forgotten now. So that's the Masters in Public Health. It's called an MPH and OH in Manchester. It's online and people can drop to a postgraduate diploma. It's not a SCIFN qualification. But it is becoming a little bit more popular with people in doing it. Let me just see because it has 44 different modules. I've only put some of the modules that you can choose from. So one of the interesting things about this particular qualification is that done almost in conjunction with the Masters in Occupational Medicine that many of the doctors do when they're training to become consultants, and also the occupational hygienists. So there's a mix. So you could, people doing this qualification could be studying with interdisciplinary with OH doctors, with hygienists, and there could be any number of different types of clinicians that are doing their masters in public health. It's not for any specific type of clinician, and even some non-clinicians. So that's, as I said, becoming a little bit more popular. And now I'm going to go back. So let me just see if I can go back, just so that I can focus everybody on the SCIFN occupational health. Obviously, if you weren't aware, there were new standards that were published in 2022. Thank goodness, lots of work put in by loads of different organizations, including iOH, Faculty of Occupational Nursing, the National School. Many people supported these new standards that were developed by the NMC, the Nursing and Midwifery Council, and the content is so much more improved than the previous SCIFN qualification. It is a postgraduate diploma, but people can top up to an MSc with a dissertation, and practice placements are required with other SCIFN OH nurses. But I'm going to ask Neil now if he'll pop in and just give a little bit more of an overview of the SCIFN qualification, because he's been working phenomenally hard in developing this for Derby University. I'll hand over to you, Neil.
Right, thank you very much. So the programme is still in development at the moment. We have conditional permission to actually run the course. So there's a few things that need to be ironed out with the Nursing and Midwifery Council. So basically this is a postgraduate diploma. So you exit with a postgraduate diploma with the option to top up to an MSc with dissertation, as Janet quite rightly said. So the new standards are really, really ambitious. There are about 104 standards that need to be met in practice and need to be covered by theoretical content. So it's an extremely comprehensive postgraduate diploma. So the standards have to be met in practice. So obviously you do have to be in a practice area and supported by a practice assessor and a supervisor, who ideally the practice supervisor should be on part 3 of the register as well. But certainly the practice assessor has to be on part 3 of the occupational health register. So all of those standards have to be demonstrated in practice. However, there is a bit of a loophole there, because obviously not all placements would be able to offer exposure to some of those standards. So obviously some of them can be met with simulated practice in line with the new nursing and midwifery education standards. So obviously it would be the university and other practice partners that would be facilitating that simulated learning. So for this particular course, there are 6 modules, 20 credits each, and basically they are all with an occupational health focus. Some of the teaching may be interprofessional learning, so you may be learning with health visitors, school nurses, district nurses, but it will all be brought back together by discipline-specific learning within that subject. 2 of the modules are absolutely related only to occupational health, and that's Introduction to Specialism and Clinical Practice in Occupational Health. And then also the final one is Research-Based Practice with Consolidation of Learning, right at the very end. It can be studied either full-time or part-time. So full-time is 1 year, where you have to demonstrate 90 days in supervised practice. We still have alternative practice areas, alternative practice learning, where basically, depending on the learner themselves, the new courses have to be learner-centred. So obviously some students may need more alternative practice than others. So if they've not worked in occupational health for very long, for instance, they may need to have, on negotiation with their practice supervisor and assessor, extra days. So that's anywhere between 5 and 10 days of alternative practice. However, all of those practice areas, so the major practice area that they're staying in and the alternative practice areas, have to be audited by the university as a suitable practice learning area. So as I said, all of those standards have to be met in practice, and there is a robust mechanism of supporting practice assessors and supervisors in assessing students and making sure that they've reached that standard. So the modules in total, so it's Introduction to Specialism and Clinical Practice, Public Health and Educating Communities, the Fundamentals of Long-Term Condition Management, Innovation, Leadership and Team Development, and then Mental Health Across the Lifespan, and then Research-Based Practice, Consolidation of Learning. So they're the 6 modules. So some people might think, well, why are you doing mental health across the lifespan? Because obviously that would include obviously children, adults, and potentially older people. Well, that's actually really important from a public health point of view as well. But obviously the focus would potentially be on an occupational health setting, which could be anywhere between the ages of 16 and 64. So that still could be considered across the lifespan. So I think the course is due to start on the 2nd of September, and that will be quickly followed by September 2025, an apprenticeship version. And the apprenticeship version, we believe, and this is not guaranteed by any means because I don't know who is going to be validated by the Nursing Midwifery Council at any point in the future, but at the moment we are looking as though we're the only university to validate an apprenticeship. So obviously that's something that we're extremely proud of. So as I said, the standards need to be met in practice and also covered by theoretical content. So obviously we've had to put together a really very comprehensive programme to get all of those things in. The benefit of doing a SCIFN is that basically, obviously you would be assessed in practice, and it is competency based as well, because you have to meet all elements. So not only the theoretical elements, but also the practical elements. And that's by filling in and I suppose having documented your competence on a portfolio document, which we're using the Pan London pad. So that's a pebble pad type document that's been developed by a number of universities, and we've adopted that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that, Neil. Just to clarify that it is face-to-face that the training is being held, isn't it?
At this moment in time, yes, it's face-to-face. Now, for 1 year, it would be 1 day a week for 2 days a week in university, which would be Monday and Tuesday. Part-time, it's 1 day, Monday in the first year, Tuesday in the second year. However, what we aim to do is to obviously get this course underway, iron out any creases along the way, and then at some point in the very near future, we will be taking this online.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Neil. And just to say that Derby is one of the universities, and we're really grateful for you giving an overview of the whole program. I think that's very helpful with it being so new as well. But there are other universities that are delivering this. Brunel University. I know that Chester is applying. I don't know if they're ready yet, but they may be 25, I think, with a start. University of Western England and University of Western Scotland. And University of Western Scotland, I think, are doing a hybrid face-to-face online. But I think that's mainly going to be for the Scottish community. But just so that everybody's aware of those. And I noticed that Marjorie Fish from Brunel has just joined. So if anybody's got any questions for her further on down the line, or for both Neil and Marjorie on the Skiffin, then please feel free to ask. I'm just wanted to say, I just want to go back because I've forgotten something. So my understanding is that the Graduate Diploma of Occupational Health Practice Development from Cumbria and the UADIP can be accessed by other professionals, so physiotherapists, OTs, paramedics, I believe, but they are no problem, Marjorie. There are other people, other clinicians that can join that qualification. Linda, I wasn't sure if that was the same thing for RGU and wondered if you were able to clarify, just because we've got some physios, etc., on the call. I will come back to that that question. So we've talked mainly about the current qualifications. However, the Faculty of Occupational Medicine for nurses, but I'm sure this is true for any professional in occupational health, have published this career pathway for individuals so that they can have an understanding of where they can go within occupational health. And the elements that they've identified are that sort of professional practice. So the one thing about occupational health that's so amazing is that there are so many different areas that you can specialize in. People might want to specialize in rail, or they might want to specialize in fire, or they might want to specialize in small to medium enterprises. They might want to open their practice, open their own business and become a sole practitioner. They might want to become, specialists in vaccinations within occupational health. But that is one of the fantastic things that people, once they have their qualification, can develop. So we always encourage people to get that sort of specialist university. Well, I always encourage people to get that specialist university qualification. Now, I know that there's many people out there that don't have a qualification who are absolutely fantastic in occupational health, but I can only talk for myself and say that you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And I have nicked that phrase from my colleague Stephanie Foster, but when you do the qualification, you learn so much that it really builds your confidence in what you're doing and what you're saying. And I certainly found that within professional practice. And what you've noticed within the Skiffin qualification and the other qualification from RGU and Cumbria is that there is also a focus on leadership. And leadership, I believe, in occupational health is really, really key, because we're leading the employers. We're helping the employers to do the best that they can for their business and for their employees. So that leadership is I think, really important. But obviously there are other areas that you can go into within occupational health. So that's coaching or mentoring. And we've got a mentoring program, which I'll talk about in a little while, where you can start with those sort of leadership skills, but also go into education and training. And we've got wonderful examples here of Marjorie, Neil, and Linda, etc., where people can expand their careers. Neil, did you want to come in here?
Yeah, I was just going to say that obviously with the postgraduate certificate in higher education, we have a significant lack of practice assessors. So people that have actually gone on to do an extended study in learning and development. And it's one of the things that we are lacking, lagging behind, should I say, many other disciplines. You know, for instance, ITU, CCU, neonatology, midwifery. Everybody has practice teachers, whereas within occupational health, they are like hen's teeth at the moment. It is a really rewarding field to go into. So practice education and practice learning. So you don't necessarily even have to leave the practice area, but there are numerous courses. Derby run one, for instance, which is a postgraduate certificate in leading interprofessional practice education, which is totally online and takes a year to study. And you get a postgraduate certificate with that, and it's accredited to the faculty, as a fellow to Advance HE. So you get an extra professional qualification that is obviously benchmarked by one of the leading organisations for higher education.
That's brilliant.
So I'd
Thank you very
encourage
much.
anybody to do that. It is really, really very rewarding to see learners in practice develop and take the nest and fly. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's really good. And just to say that in PAM Academy we have Stephanie Foster, who's completed her PGCE, and it is a fantastic qualification, having that just for any internal training programs that organizations might be running, as well as for anybody who wants to do that sort of assessor route that you were talking about, or going into actually educating, as Neil, Marjorie, and Linda have. So thank you very much for that one. Obviously, leadership. There's a huge scope for leadership in occupational health. I know that Robert Gordon are considering a master's in leadership. I hope that's okay for me to say. Linda, obviously something down the line, but that's an exciting opportunity. There is also the potential for advanced practice. So clinicians now, interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary clinicians, can do an advanced practice course at the moment, and even a portfolio transfer, except for, I think it's the RCN one, because you need a prescribing certificate. However, they are not regulated, and the NMC is looking at regulating advanced practice. So that's something we're keeping a sharp eye on, because I think it will be very exciting for us in occupational health to be able to have a qualification, an advanced practice qualification for those that want to extend their professional practice and become expert. And then, of course, there's evidence research and development. We know people that occupational health clinicians that are working in research and development. A number have gone on to do their PhD. I mean, it's fantastic to know that Karen Michelle, who is an occupational health, Dr. Karen Michelle, who is an occupational health nurse, actually leads the research on occupational health for iOH, the Institute for Occupational Health and Safety, so which I think is wonderful. There is the workplace health and well-being. I've had to pop that in there. That's the Masters in Workplace Health and Well-being from Nottingham University, which a number of us have done. Libby and myself have done that, found that absolutely great in expanding in our knowledge and awareness and confidence, really, for me. We've recently had an occupational health nurse who's completed an MBA, a Master's in Quality Management. Quality is fantastic for occupational health, especially with the recent government focus on quality in occupational health. So many are doing ISO accreditations. There's the CQOS accreditation and risks accreditation. So there's many. So knowing that we are having a focus on that is fantastic. And of course, we have clinicians that have gone on to do the MBA because they're running a business, or they just want to have a more better understanding of the MBA of business in occupational health. Considering we work so closely with business, it's really important. And I do know some clinicians that have gone on to do a CIPD qualification so that they get a better understanding of the HR aspects of our role. So loads and loads of scope in occupational health. And then I just put this here because continuing professional development, if we go back, a lot of those courses have separate online modules that can be done. There's occupational health is just one of those organizations, one of those specialities where everything counts. So it's there's numerous ways that we can access continual professional development. And of course, iOH, that's our specialty, is supporting people with CPD. The SOM have a learning part. ELFH have great learning on it. I think lots of organizations have their own learning. iOH, you name it. So many opportunities to get a CPD. And especially for those that need to revalidate, it's just making sure that CPD meets their current qualification that they have. So, for example, if it's SCIFN. So I think that's I'm coming to an end. So where can you find more information? Anybody who's new into occupational health, no matter what or where you come from, as a technician, a nurse, a doctor, a physio, OT, wherever it is, the OH mentoring site now has 357 people registered on the site. We have over 40 mentors. We are. I had an email this morning from someone who said, "What a brilliant site," because it has a lot of resources for people that are coming into occupational health, so that they can understand what it's all about. And so, please feel free to have a look at that if you're new into occupational health, or even if you want to move into that sort of leadership role and become a mentor. Of course, iOH have got a fantastic website with great educational resources. So does SOM have some great resources. Then I would strongly recommend, if people want to know more about training, I love this edition of OH Today. It has sort of lived experience from various different organizations that are delivering training, or have people that have gone through training and their experiences of that. So well worth a read if you're looking and thinking about occupational health. And of course, the National School of Occupational Health has a careers section. So there's a section for technicians, for nurses, etc. So you can go in. Once again, there's blogs in there from people that have done the qualifications and become and moved in from BASRAT, MSK clinicians, to technicians, to physiologists, you name it. So well worth having a look. And then my last slide is hopefully everything that I've talked about today, all of the links, so that you can access that. I do have another training spreadsheet so that I can send out to anybody who wishes to have that. And then that's my email address on the bottom. Thank you, Libby. Any questions, anybody? We are very fortunate to have some great people on the call. So if anybody's got any questions, I know I haven't talked about doctors. So if if there's anybody who is a doctor or GP still on the call, I'm more than happy to go through all the types of qualifications for people to become consultants. Oh, thank you, Joe. That's amazing. Brilliant. Jamira?
I just wanted to ask, are the accredited university qualifications also available for those who are pediatric trained rather than just like general adult nurses?
Oh, great question. I'll ask Marjorie to answer that one, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine, as long as you're on part 1 or part 2. So part 1 is registered nurse and part 2 midwife. You can apply. And we are interviewing.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody on the first part of the register is able to apply.
I think we have had very successful mental health nurses in occupational health. I know of other pediatric nurses. Midwives have been, I know of successful midwives. So, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Libby.
I'm concerned about the lack of access that students might have to supervisors that are on part 3 of the register. Any tips on how people can source? It comes up quite a lot, doesn't it, on the UKOH Facebook chat? Is there anything that could be said about that?
I think it's a real shame, actually. You don't have to be on part 3 of the register as a supervisor. However, it would be ideal that people are on part 3 of the register, because they would know, exactly what is necessary for that student to be exposed to. The reason that it's accepted by the NMC is that the practice teacher qualification is no longer registerable with the NMC like it used to be. However, there are voluntary standards that have been set up by the QNI, and for all areas of clinical practice in the community settings, which would be occupational health, district nursing, and a myriad of others, they recommend that supervisors and practice assessors are on part 3 of the register, or have the specialist practice qualification in district nursing. So I think that there is still some way to go on that. Obviously, it is acceptable to have a supervisor who isn't on part 3 of the register, but the assessor has to be. So if you haven't got a practice assessor in your organisation, as I'm sure Marjorie will tell you as well, we may be able to facilitate somebody to do your practice assessment using a long arm version or online, as long as they do have to work with you at some point. So as a trainee or as a student, you may have to go and work with that person in order to, show your levels of competence. But obviously, on the dawning of the age of online facilitation, a lot of it can be done online.
Thank you.
It's a solution, but it's not ideal.
Can I just ask, just in case, so for those clinicians out there that are skiffing OH and would like to become practice assessors, how many hours do you feel that they need to dedicate to somebody who is going through a skiffing qualification over the lifespan of that 2-year qualification?
I think it depends on the student. So obviously, if you've got a student that has had no experience of working in occupational health before, then obviously during the first part of the course, they are going to need very close supervision. So you are going to have to be working with them and, allowing them to shadow you, see what you do, where you go, and have a really good overview and experience within occupational health. So obviously over a period of time, as their competence, they're going, if you think of Benna's work, novice to expert. So, once they've gained a lot of experience, then your supervision could be done, less frequently. So for instance, let's think about management referrals or something like that. They're going to need to see loads of them first of all. And then you may allow that person to do 1 or 2 with you in the room, maybe 3 or 4 or different ones, very simple, not complex ones, obviously. But then obviously over a period of time, when their confidence has grown, you may let them fly and do a few on their own and bring their reports and their notes back to you so that you can supervise and see what's been said before the report goes out. So I think over the period of time, it depends on the student. However, if they're remaining in employment, they cannot just go on and do their normal job. They have to be a supernumerary student in practice for the days that they are in practice. So if it's part-time, the 1 day that they're in practice on our course per week, they have to be supernumerary. And then 1 day in university, and then the other 2 or 3 days, depending on what stage they're on in the course, they can do their normal job, because that's not course hours, if that makes sense. So I think each student is individual, and I'm sure you do the same, Marjorie, don't you?
I'll let Marjorie come in here, actually, if that's okay, Neil. Thank you for that. I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say, I'm sorry, I joined late. I was watching football, and
You're allowed.
Then when I saw the reminder, I panicked. But I got to hear Neil saying about EPAD, the London pad, the EPAD. It makes it easier in terms of frequency when to meet the students. So we are the first ones who've been approved by the NMC to use the EPAD. It was called London Pad, and I'm sure Neil will be using it in the whole country. So it allows the PA, the supervisor, there's set periods that you have to meet, like 3 set periods. So the students develop at different rates, but at least there's that period where you can review before you move on to the next section. We are going to be learning as we go along, because we're going to start using it in September. So we're still learning it, but it allows those set frequencies, which can be reviewed on the progress of the student. So there are 3 throughout the year that they're learning.
So from what I'm hearing is that it's quite a structured process using the pad that both you and Neil have talked about. So that gives a lot more structure and consistency for the practice teachers. So which sounds brilliant. I'll let Ella just come in here because she's had her hand up for a while. Sorry, Ella.
That's fine, Janet, no worries. I would just like to echo what Neil has just said in relation to obviously when you have a student. I have a student at the moment, and obviously the first 3 months. Yeah, one of Neil's students from Derby University, absolutely. She's done very well. Yeah, she's nearly to the end now. She's just completing her consolidation. So yeah, I was meeting my student on a regular basis, on a weekly basis for the first 3 months. And then obviously I went then obviously to 2 weeks for the next, sort of 2 months. And then it's sort of, we were sort of meeting like once every 3 weeks. But obviously I was making sure that she was competent, obviously in her report writing, etc., before obviously I would actually move away and obviously, not her as much. But I'm just echoing really what Neil has just said. It's so important to meet them on a regular basis when they've got no experience, in occupational health, and we need to support them as much as we can. And it is a shame we don't have enough practice assessors and practice supervisors, because we do need a lot more, and obviously we know that people are retiring in occupational health, and it's great the work that iOH do, to support people's, people who are interested in occupational health and getting a recognised qualification. So yeah, well done.
Oh, thank you, Ella. And just to clarify, you're a practice assessor, is that right?
A practice supervisor. That's
practice
correct.
Supervisor. Okay.
Although she probably will be an assessor very soon.
That's correct. Yes, I will. Yes. So I've been a practice. I was a practice assessor for one student, not with Derby University. That was another university. And I've been a practice supervisor for 2 students from Derby University, but then I'm going to move back to being a practice assessor, but this time with Derby University anyway. So this will be my 4th student. If we get another student, hopefully, Neil. Yeah, hopefully anyway. So looking forward to the innovation day, Neil. Anyway, at Derby University. Yeah, should be good.
Brilliant. It does sound like you get a lot of satisfaction for anybody who's listening or anybody who knows anybody who's a skip NOH. It does sound, maybe we could signpost them to you to have a mini chat if they're thinking about being a practice supervisor, whether that's for Brunel or for Scotland or for Derby or for wherever. It would be great if we could increase those. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much. So my last question was to Linda, who popped in, but then popped out. Oh, there she is. Linda, I just wanted to clarify with RGU, is it solely for nurses or do you take any other disciplines as well? You're on mute. Sorry, Linda, you're on mute.
Sorry, you think I was
there we go. You were mid-flow there.
Right. All of our students are working in occupational health, so we don't have this requirement for practice teachers or for practice assessors, which works 2 ways. But all of the people that come onto the BSc at RGU are already working at least part-time in occupational health, and we assess their learning at the end of each module. Our course is open to anybody that is on a professional register that has a code of ethics. So we've already had graduates who are occupational therapists. We've had graduates who are occupational physiotherapists. And we've, and of course, most of our graduates are on part 1 of the register. And I think, the world of occupational health is so multi-denominational that it's so important. And I think that where we've had students who are occupational therapists or occupational physiotherapists, it's been absolutely incredible. They've added so much value to the learning for our other students as well, because there's not enough people in occupational health. We need more people, and we need to recognise this wider community. And we're very happy at Robert Gordon's to welcome them onto the course.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think there's definitely, with the work that we're doing at National School, we're growing that occupational health workforce, which means there's going to be hopefully far more people going through qualifications, and therefore to have this breadth of qualifications for people to choose is absolutely amazing. Neil, did you want to come in for a last comment? I'm just mindful are we over, Libby? Just want to check. Are we over time? Or are we still okay? Oh, you're also on mute, so we're okay. Sorry, Neil, carry on.
I was just going to give a quick ask, really, of anybody that is thinking about having a student or hosting a student in placement, because we always have people that apply that don't work in occupational health currently, but are willing to move into occupational health. And we sometimes struggle to actually find a placement for the student, because some people come in and they'll say, oh, I'm interested in offering a placement, but then it doesn't actually ever happen. So I think it's incredibly rewarding to have a student in practice within an organisation, because they will see things with a new set of eyes. They'll be able to look at the latest research and obviously add some real value to an organisation. They could do mini projects. Ours is not all written assignment, so they can do posters, they can do occupational health resources for public health type things. It's incredibly rewarding, you know, and they are really, you know, trying to impress not only you as an employer but also the university, so they're willing to go that extra mile. So please encourage your managers, leaders and all the rest of it to think about it. It is certainly something that we are really lacking, is the ability, you know, to be able to give somebody some first class training in practice, because there are a lot of companies that just bury their head in the sand, and you know, they're not willing to assist with growing their own.
In fact, to pick up on that point, Neil, Ella, I'm going to put you on the spot and say, how do you feel about writing an article for our OH Today magazine on being a supervisor and assessor? Because I think that sort of lived experience can really help people to have a good understanding of what it involves. Have we signed you up? Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely. You've won me over, Janet. I'll be there, no doubt.
I can support you with that, Elaine.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Elaine, I can support you with that if you wish.
Oh, sorry. Is it Elaine? I'm calling you Ella. Is it Elaine? Sorry, Elaine.
No worries. Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. We'll hold you to that one. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great minds, Livy. Great minds.
I'm due to revalidate actually this year, so it'll be great for my revalidation.
Oh, of course it will. Of course it will. Brilliant. Well, that's everything from us. Is there anybody else on the call that has a question at all for either our educators or us? Oh, Carly, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for that feedback. Brilliant. Okay, if there's no other questions, then we'll bring this to a close. Don't forget, I'll just pop my email at the bottom. So if anybody wants any resources to come to me, and obviously we will get the recording. I'm just going to stop the recording because I forgot actually that we were being recorded, but there you go. With the recording will go up on the website. There'll be a certificate for those people that have attended today, and of course we will welcome your feedback as well. So there we go. There's my email address.